Alright everyone, Venom Let There Be Carnage has been out for about a weekend now, and apparently it destroyed at the box office, so you can't deny that Sony must be doing something right. And so now, against Tom Hardy and Andy Serkis's wishes, sorry guys, I am going to completely spoil the movie. That's right, this is my Venom Let There Be Carnage spoiler talk. So yeah, that is a spoiler warning. If you have not seen this movie yet, you should really go see it because it is, at the very least, a fun romp. So unless you've seen the movie or you just don't care, steer clear of this video. For the rest of us, alright, let's talk about some Carnage. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Shriek. Like I said, her character didn't really serve a purpose in the story until later on when she became a plot point as something for Cletus Cassidy and his symbiote to disagree over. But really, this is a thing that probably shouldn't concern me, but it kind of does. And that's the fact that her powers are never really explained, you know? It's never revealed how she got her powers. Kind of like Black Canary and Birds of Prey, actually. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter, but I can't deny that it does leave me wanting, you know? It leaves me curious. In the prologue of this movie where she says she's being dragged off to somewhere where there are more people like her, I was like, okay, so apparently there are more powered people in this Sony universe. Look, this is a brand new franchise, you know, a brand new universe. We're only in our second movie. So up until this point, we didn't think that there were more superpowered people out there. You know, we didn't think this was like the MCU where everywhere you turn, there's a different powered person. I'm just saying Shriek's line here does open the door for more powered people to come into this universe later on. That is, if this universe even matters anymore. We'll get there. And in this prologue, Shriek partially deafens this cop named Patrick Mulligan. So he has a hearing aid in one ear now, and he shoots her in the eye, which causes her to have her weird eye thing with a scar. Then we catch up with Eddie Brock, and so he's trying to rebuild his journalism career. As we see now, he's working for the Daily Bugle, which is our first big Spider-Man Easter egg, the first of a few. That Daily Bugle newspaper logo is worth noting though. I'll get to why in the mid-credits scene. I like the fact that the Venom symbiote sees all of Cletus Cassidy's drawings on the wall, and he memorizes it in this like really photographic memory kind of way. And so Eddie and Venom use that to actually solve this case of all the bodies that Cletus Cassidy hid. They find them on, I think it's Rodeo Beach, and this is actually pretty cool, because the SFPD is like, oh shit, Eddie, you solved it. Yeah, wow, these are a bunch of stiffs that Cletus Cassidy, the serial killer, hid. Alright, we're gonna reinstate the death penalty on him now. When that happened, I felt the scene was kind of rushed. It's like, oh, we found the bodies. Oh, death penalty. Shriek yells, Cletus punches the wall, and then, alright, next scene. It was like 15 seconds. Doesn't change the fact, though, that when that happened, I was like, wow. But getting back to Eddie Brock, alright. You remember the end of the first movie where he's talking to Venom, and he's like, okay, I'll let you eat bad people. That's our deal. Yeah, apparently in this movie, he's gone back on that, because now I guess he's not even letting Venom eat bad guys anymore. When he's holding up that one robber, you hear Eddie go, put him down! And I was like, why? He's a bad guy. Isn't that what you and Venom are? You're the lethal protector? You're the anti-hero Venom. You made a deal at the end of the first movie. I just don't get why Eddie would go back on that. I guess it's to give him and Venom something to fight over for our main plot in this movie. I did like the scene where he meets up with Anne, and Anne discovers that Venom is still alive, because again, you remember at the end of the first movie, Venom like appeared to die in the rocket explosion, and you see Anne talking with Eddie. She's like, sorry about Venom. And you hear Venom go, she has no idea that we're gonna get her back. So alright, they were keeping it a secret from Anne, but she figures it out here in this scene. She's like, Venom, take care of Eddie, okay? And I love this. Venom's like, I'm going to make you cry now. She's gonna love it. That was funny. I laughed at that. One really cool scene in this movie is where Eddie gets the letter from Cletus Cassidy, and he's reading it, and it's Cletus Cassidy telling his backstory, and you see like this animated, like these hand-drawn sketches going on in the background. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. So apparently, Cletus Cassidy, when he was born, his heart stopped temporarily or something, and so he was rejuvenated back to life or something, and I guess that's what messed him up in the head. Which, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Oxygen deficiency and all that. So it shows how he killed his grandmother by pushing her in her wheelchair down the stairs. Classic right from the comics. And then it shows that he killed his mother by throwing the hairdryer in the bathtub when she's in it, electrocuting her to death. Yeah, alright, he was one sick little kid. He had an abusive father who sent him to St. Estes Home for Unwanted Children, where he met Francis Barrison, aka Shriek, his one bright light. I don't know, I just really like that scene. It was like a sick, twisted version of the Tale of the Three Brothers or some shit. It was neat. My question though is, alright, when Eddie meets Cletus again, Cletus is going on about how Eddie also had an abusive father, and somehow he knows that Eddie's mother died in childbirth, giving birth to him. I was like, how did you know that, Cletus? That's really an unanswered question. That does have me scratching my head. How the fuck did Cletus know about that shit? But Venom gets pissed off, and so Venom reaches out and grabs Cletus Cassidy, and you're like, ah, okay, so it is Venom's fault for the birth of Carnage. Straight up, it was Venom who initiated it. He even apologizes to Eddie later. He's like, I'm sorry. And this is where it gets to the point where they're arguing so much with each other that they fight. Eddie's throwing punches. At one point, he takes the motorcycle helmet and bashes out some of the symbiote's teeth. And he's like, how dare you And so, alright, they break up. So yeah, alright, it's one of those stories. Which kind of happened in the first movie too, where Eddie separated himself from the symbiote because he thought he was eating his insides, and he's like, we're done. And so now I guess it happens again. So Eddie and Venom split up and go their separate ways. And I will say, that Venom Rave scene, I just thought that was stupid. Yeah, I didn't like it. Venom's like on his own and he's in this underground club or whatever. And he goes up on the stage and he's like, "Eddie was wrong. Aliens should not be mistreated. We should all live together in harmony on this rock." And I was like, what? Is this movie trying to work in a social message? Cause it's not working. Yeah, I just thought it was weird. I'm pretty sure whenever I watch this movie from now on, I'm gonna skip this scene. But moving on from that, we have Carnage's breakout. And yeah, I did think it was pretty cool for PG-13. I like when the symbiote first comes out of Cletus Cassidy, he says, "Something wicked this way comes." Classic quote right there. And when Carnage is going through, he's slaughtering all these prison guards. I will admit, this scene is kind of disappointing in the fact that it's still PG-13, it's not R. Cause I can imagine if this were rated R, this scene would be brutally awesome. He would just slaughterhouse these prison guards, tearing them in half, eating off their heads, blood splattering everywhere, so much red. You know, like Logan and shit, that would have been so cool. But nah, instead we have Carnage throwing these guards around. The tongue thing was still pretty cool though. And he does that tornado move, the Carnage tornado, which my friend was like, that's from a Marvel video game that he's in, he has a move like that. I was like, alright, I'll take your word for it. It did look pretty cool though. Even that one guard where Cletus is like, "Any last words?" That guard was like begging for his life. That sounded like a real plead. Like he really sounded like he was scared to die. That was good. And the Carnage symbiote is really cool. He is indeed voiced by Woody Harrelson. I really knew it when Shriek used her powers and he was like, "If she does that again, I'll eat her face." Right there, I was like, that's Woody Harrelson's voice, just deepened for a symbiote. But when Cletus and Carnage get out, they steal the red convertible car, and their first order of business is to break Francis Barrison out of Ravencroft. And I do like the fact that the Carnage symbiote is like, "We're also gonna kill my father, the one who birthed me." So alright, I guess the Carnage symbiote has some sort of vendetta against the Venom symbiote. Why? I don't know. Seriously, I don't know why the Carnage symbiote wants the Venom symbiote dead. It's father, which I do like that he called him father, because he technically is. But why does he want him dead? I don't know, they never say. But the scene where Cletus breaks Francis Barrison out of Ravencroft is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And it's because when Cletus goes into her cell, and he's like, "I'd like you to meet Carnage." You see the tendrils go around her glass cell, and her reaction, she goes, "That is so hot." I love that shit. Because it just shows how psycho they are. Yeah, they're both just insane serial killers. And so when Cletus reveals that he has an alien symbiote and wraps itself around her cell, she's gonna love it. And the glass between them shatters and they start making out. I was like, I am loving this scene. Cause they are a couple of mad hatters in love. It's great, just two crazy people being crazy. But I hadn't even taken into consideration the fact that their powers clash with each other. Yeah, the symbiote's weaknesses are fire and sound. What are Shriek's powers? Sonic blasts. I never even thought to myself when the trailers were coming out, I never thought, her powers are what the symbiotes are weak against. Yeah, I don't know why I never put two and two together. You'd think that'd be super easy for me. So when they're driving off in the car and she starts screaming, you can see that the Carnage symbiote is weak to it. Cletus is like, "Stop, you'll kill him!" And that's where the Carnage symbiote says, "She does that again, I'll eat her face." Great scene, pretty cool. And so these two psycho lovers are gonna get married. That was a pretty funny scene though, where they're talking about this wedding that they wanna have. One guest for each of us, the cop, Eddie Brock, and Venom. And then the Carnage symbiote says, and I was like, Game of Thrones? Anyone? Yeah, I'm pretty sure most of us in the audience, or at least those of us who have watched Game of Thrones, thought of Game of Thrones. Cause you know, the Red Wedding. We don't have to go there. Cause you wanna talk about some rated R violence. There you go. Watch that scene in Game of Thrones. You'll be scarred for life. But anyway, moving on. I love the scene where Mrs. Chen had the Venom symbiote, and Wang walks in and she's like, "Oh, wait a minute. Venom, you're in there. You come out right now." And you see the Venom face come on to Mrs. Chen. And I was like, yeah. That was really funny. And then I was also reminded of how attractive Michelle Williams is. I mean, I always thought she was pretty, but when she leans on the counter and she's like, "Yeah, you're the big sexy one," I was all like, yeah. You're attractive. Just saying. And so, Anne Wang becomes She-Venom again, briefly for about 5 seconds. In fact, it felt like Michelle Williams had less She-Venom screen time in this movie than she did in the first movie. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it felt like. But she breaks Eddie Brock out of the SFPD custody because he was being grilled by Detective Mulligan. So when he's broken out of there by Venom, that's where I was like, oh, okay, that's where they become fugitives. Yeah, Eddie and Venom are now fugitives on the run from the SFPD. More on that later. You do hear Anne Wang say, "I am never doing that again." Well, maybe never. Honestly, it's really fun. Which, yeah, that does tease that she might be She-Venom again for another 5 seconds in whatever future movie they may make. Alright, I'm open to seeing it. But then we come to it, folks. The Venom vs. Carnage Throwdown. And yeah, it is a pretty cool fight. The one fight they have in the entire movie. Which, yeah, that does bum me out. They only have one fight in the entire thing? I guess that's what you get when you have a 97-minute runtime. But the fight was pretty cool. They're throwing each other through walls, Carnage is pinning Venom up against the wall, and I love to see it because, yeah, it's Venom versus Carnage. No matter what rating it is, it's still a live-action Venom versus Carnage fight, and I like to see it, because I've wanted to see that all my life. So there was no way I was going to be disappointed by it. One of the coolest parts of the fight, which is simultaneously one of the cheesiest parts of the fight, is where you see Carnage straight up go, and the way they jacked up the bass for that line, I was like, holy shit. With the perfectly timed lightning behind him and everything. It was awesome, but at the same time, I was like, he worked in the title, and that makes it kind of cheesy. I still loved it though. Definitely one of the best parts of the movie. But then right after that, you get this moment where Anne is hanging and Venom is holding on to her. And again, I was like, is everyone else here thinking of the Gwen Stacy scene from The Amazing Spider-Man 2? Because that's totally what it felt like, right? You have a blonde woman who might die. She's hanging for her life. You see her reflection in Venom's eyes. And so I was thinking, oh shit, she might die here. And I'll be honest, I would have felt for that. Yeah, to me, honestly, that would have sucked. But she does live. Venom brings her down into the loving arms of her fiancé, who I still don't really care for. And then Shriek meets her fate. She goes the way of Ernesto de la Cruz. Yep. Squashed by a giant bell. Ooh, that had to hurt. So, alright, she's dead. And then when they're all falling, the symbiotes separate from their hosts. Eddie gets back with Venom, and he grabs a hold of the Carnage symbiote, and he eats it back up, and you're like, alright, so that happened. I guess it made sense for that to happen, because how else are you gonna kill this thing? But then he takes Cletus Cassidy, and he goes, fuck this guy. And then he eats his face. Which, alright, credit where it's due, that was a good use of this movie's one F-bomb. Nice job there. But yeah, you know what? It bummed me out that they decided to kill off Cletus Cassidy in this movie. Like, seriously, I would have liked for him to stick around, so when we eventually cross over with Spider-Man, I'll get there in a minute, we could have a Spider-Man and Venom versus Carnage movie. That would have been awesome. But alas, I guess that'll never come to fruition. Oh well, that sucks. And then the last thing you see in this fight is Mulligan. You see his eyes start to glow like Shriek's, and he goes, monsters. And then it fades to black. I was like, what was that? So I did some research. Apparently the character of Patrick Mulligan becomes the character Toxin in the comics. And I had heard of Toxin before, but Toxin is another symbiote. As in, you know, like Venom or Carnage or Riot. The fact that his eyes started glowing like Shriek's makes you think that he might get powers like Shriek or something. So I'm like, okay, that's different. But also, how the fuck did that even happen? How did Mulligan get some mutation in the first place? I don't know, I must have missed it in the fight. Did Shriek like scream in his face or something and that's how it happened? I don't know. If someone out there does know, then let me know in a comment. And so the movie ends with Eddie and Venom on a beach. They're more bonded than ever, and they are now fugitives on the run from the police department, and they love each other. Aww. It was really sweet in a funny kind of way. Eddie's like, you said you love me. Venom's like, and I noticed that in the last shot where it pulls away, you see Venom coming out of him, and it kind of forms like a half a heart symbol. Yeah, I noticed that, Circus. I see what you're doing. The Simbrock fans are not going to be shutting up anytime soon. And now we come to it, folks. The most mind-boggling and shattering mid-credits scene I have seen in a very long time. So Eddie and Venom are chilling in this dingy hotel room, and Venom starts talking.
We all have a past, Eddie. Billions of light years of hive-mind knowledge across universes would explode your tiny little brain.
And so the Venom symbiote agrees to show Eddie just a little bit of what he means, but I was like, across universes, huh? As in multiple universes? As in multiverse? Maybe? I don't know. But speaking of multiverse, before Venom even gets a chance to show Eddie what he was talking about, this blinding bright light comes in through the door, the place shakes up, and you see everything around changing. Venom's like,
what the hell is happening? This isn't me.
And so now the room has changed into a nicer looking room, but then you see it. On the TV is J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons. I was like, what? Holy shit, wait a minute. What is happening right now? Yeah, that is J.K. Simmons, as in J.K. Simmons as JJJ from Spider-Man Far From Home that we saw. And yeah, Spider-Man Far From Home as in a movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And then you see Tom Holland's Peter Parker Spider-Man come up on the screen, and your mind just goes, God damn! And Venom goes up to the screen and he's like, and he licks the screen and you're like, holy shit. All right. This is happening, people. We are now crossing universes. We are crossing franchises. Sony's Spider-Man-less Spider-Man Cinematic Universe has now officially crossed over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. How did this happen? Well, I guess Spider-Man No Way Home will answer that question. Yes, something happens in that movie that we don't know yet. Doctor Strange and Spider-Man do something to cross multiverses, and here we are. But what this mid-credits scene is telling us is that one day we will see Tom Hardy's Venom go up against Tom Holland's Spider-Man. That's what this mid-credit scene is telling us. At least that's what it told me. Which now, if you go further with that, that means that this Venom will get the spider symbol on his chest, which, yeah, chalk that up as a plus. And also he'll possibly get the web shooting powers as well. Because, you know, in the comics, Venom shoots webs out of his fists, because the symbiote was on Peter Parker first, chronologically speaking. But the thing that really blew my mind about this mid-credit scene is the fact that we are crossing universes now. We're crossing franchises. I don't think that's ever been done before cinematically. Like, Sony's Spider-Man Universe franchise was its own thing, while the MCU was its own thing. But now this mid-credit scene has blurred the lines between them. We're crossing over, and it just blows my mind. More than anything else in this movie did. And so yeah, that's where this movie ends. And so, in conclusion, Venom Let There Be Carnage was, like I said, a fun, enjoyable romp for me. Spoiler alert, it's not gonna be on my top 10 favorite movies of the year list, because there were some things about it that did admittedly disappoint me. But I can still kick my feet up and have fun with this one. Unless a way better rated R Carnage movie eventually comes along, I'll always be happy to watch this movie again. So, Venom Let There Be Carnage, what do we think of this mid-credits scene? What are your thoughts on it? Where do you think it might go from here? I want to know your thoughts. I'm not a symbiote, I can't read your mind. So whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe.